Hi, Vicky. In now. Let me know once you're in. Let me know once you're in. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You need to unmute your phone. Are you in? Are you in? Okay. Once you're in, just say something.
In.
Okay. Beautiful. 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 Yes. How are you? How are you? How are you tonight? Let us know how you are tonight. You're muted. Oh dear. Okay. I'm also trying to connect to all of you guys once you're in. We need to quickly be talking and converging. Walter Magaya'S staff, and we're also told his wife was arrested. Also, his wife Mudzimaiwake Asungwa as well. So it's not just Magaya himself; it's also his staff members and also his wife. And this was done in the early hours in the morning. And sources notified us that even his wife, Tendai, was also apprehended. It's not clear how he was arrested at a time when he was supposed to be. My guy right now really is supposed to be in a prayer mountain, I think. Right? He's supposed to be praying. I ain't You're supposed to be praying and fasting. Right? Remember? How many people remember that? That the gentleman was supposed to be. Tendai, can you your video is gonna need to be enabled, okay? Tendai, your video is gonna need to be enabled for you to speak because you won't be able to speak unless you have to give permissions to your video to take on. Right. So some people are saying, yes, those are yeah. And the allegations are rape, the charges are rape, and also fraud. In Zimbabwean English, we say fraud. Do you agree that we call it fraud? Vicky, are you there? I'm gonna ask for a few people here. Once you're in, just start speaking. And yeah, we want to just hear a few people who want to connect with the officers, with the investigators or the prosecutors. This is the platform for a lot of people who have not been coming up, who have been feeling bullied. Some have felt intimidated, or at least they've told us that they're intimidated with exposing Walter Magaya. And well, you should know that something new, something totally different has happened. It's taken years. It's taken 11 years. 11 years. How old were you in 2014? Yeah. I'm going to Makori Magani at 2014. That's when all this started. That's when I started reporting on this. And a lot of people have, and I think some even still tell me they still feel like, no, Simba, this is not true. And some people still feel like, kunyepa iwa aka na magaiwa no Buddha. Some people are even saying he'll come out, he'll be there on Sunday. Achangari go church kukereke mangwana. Are you one of those people? Right, but the truth is, Maga has been he has been taken in. Magaya pinda. Aiwa kupinda pinda zvake zvimwe zvezvo maybe trozo sinzomangwana and give us today our daily bread. Okay, so we focus on today's daily bread. So far we can definitely authoritatively tell you that he has been taken in apinzwa. Magaya Pinzo. Aishonga Mujare. Ahoy, ahoy, ahoy. Right. So tell us, folks, those who lost money, excuse me, or who say or allege that you lost money or you lost something, talk to us. Right. If you're ready, Vicky, we can start speaking with you and just hearing you. Are you going to go ahead? Because you will need to connect with the officers or the prosecutors. Are you aware that this facility is open or not? Talk to us. Someone is saying maybe somewhere, somehow they framed him. Someone is saying they framed him. Anza afuremiwa nemumwe anzi Magaya afuremiwa. Right. So folks, right. I'm hoping that Tendai, once you're in, start speaking. Tendai enable a video kana Tendai shande kana also enable a video. Kana usina kuenable a video ya shande. Kwa ine mwanzi kungoshibisana cheta papa. Is that the case? Right. So, how many people here want to know how to connect to the officers, how to connect to the prosecutors? Talk to us. Muriangani panapa muda kuconnecta nekuna prosecutor. Ari kuda kuenda kuma prosecutor ndiani, ari kuda kuconnecta nema prosecutor ndiani panapa uyai kana. Unaenda straight. Munofamba nenzira ipi kuenda kuma prosecutor ukoko. Njani. Right. Where are we here? Where are we here? Where are we here? Tiri papia papa. I'm just doing a small update, I think, on my device. Something was dodgy. Right. Are you ready, folks? Mpindere. So, folks, two things. The charges are rape and fraud. The allegations are rape and fraud. Do you agree? And where are you? Moripapi Panyai. Talk to us. Right, talk to us. Just getting my device now ready. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Right, so we had a lot of people. Right, we had a lot of people. Where is getting our guest? Yes, I think Tendai Chinyanga, enable a video. So to go dark wakana pasina musina enable a video. Okay, zazoita manje. Hi Tendai. Hi Tendai, really say. Tendai, you need to enable your audio. Can you hear me? Hi Tendai. Tendai, say something. Sorry, Tendai, say something. Can you hear me? Oh dear. Tendai,
Yeah.
are you ready?
Now I can hear, but I was struggling to enter.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No,
Do you hear me?
Mapinda. Yes, I hear you. Yeah. So to talk to us, Tendai. Yeah. How does this feel?
Hi,
I
Simba.
remember.
Do you
Yes.
hear
Can you
me?
hear me? Perfectly. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Do you now hear me, Simba?
Perfectly.
My wife?
I can hear you perfectly.
Default earpiece.
I can hear you perfectly.
But my wife,
Uh, tumia sonzo zvakanaka. Can you hear me? Can I let me know once you can hear me? Oh, indri sonzo zvakanaka. I'm just wondering here. Woo. Big day, big day. Big day, big day, big day, big day, big day. Once you're in Tendai, just let me know. Right. So quickly. So the news here, folks, is that his staff members, Walter Magaya'S staff members, were also arrested. Vasungwao, my staff members, Ake, Vasungwao, they've also been arrested, including Muzmaiwake, including his wife. She has also been arrested. Once you're in Tendai, just say something. Once you're in Tendai, say something.
Ngoma zimbamundinzwa here.
Chaizo, chaizo. Ndakunzwa, ndakunzwa, ndakunzwa. Can you hear me now?
Oh, great.
Ah, beautiful. How does it
Yeah,
feel,
yeah, yeah,
brother?
yeah. But you need
Mm.
kata kata, but it's okay.
Ah,
Hear
good
me,
one,
that's
good one,
fine.
good one. Ah, beautiful. Yeah. So tell me, how does it feel? How does it feel? Takatanga kutaura
No, no,
ndofunga
no.
3 years ago.
It's justice. It's justice. Yeah, it's justice
Mm-hmm.
taking its course now. We grateful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Talk to me. Right. Can you hear me? I'm getting cut here. Right. Okay, just for our guests here in. So sorry, folks. Tangora Sikirwane, some small thing here. Here we go. Apologies. Just waiting for our guests. Vakupinda, they're in. They're in. They just got cut off. I'm going to cut off. Right. Okay. Right. So the breaking news, folks, to those who are coming in late, is that not only was Magaya arrested, but his wife, his staff, also my staff members, were rounded up as well. Saka asiega mfundisi abakwa, vabakwa zvekare maemployees ake, vabakwa vasungwa zvekare. So yeah, okay, I'm just getting here. What's going on? Tendai, once you're in, just let me know. Hey, I'm starting my pin and kutumira my link. Okay, that pin, but it's saying the space is unavailable. No. Takutumira ipa pa StreamYard. Okay, all right. Pa StreamYard kwete ku space. Okay. Ku space munogona kuya futi, munogona kuya ku space kana mchida space rather than StreamYard. Okay. Moda space. Again, kuvurira space kana mchida but ndachona to StreamYard iri better. Okay, that's fine. I can go on for StreamYard. Thank you. Takutumira link. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Hakuna kosi no kwanisa kumisa masaisa ikuti andende kwa noda hakuna saka katoshvika baba strategic partners zedu aya tiritese zvakasimba ndiri kutaura kuti ndiri right ndakangomirira signal sekutaura kwandakaita do not play with the power of the people. It is like the ocean currents. There is no course that can stop the current from flowing where they want none. So we have arrived, our strategic partners. Indeed, we are tightly united with them. I am saying that I am alright. I am just waiting for the signal, as I have said before. Jeza, wena. Jeza, zimaye. Jeza. Jeza. Zimaye. Jeza. Hakuna saka katoshvika baba strategic partners zedu aya tiritese zvakasimba ndiri kutaura kuti ndiri right ndakangomirira signal sekutaura kwandakaita do not play with the power of the people. It is like the ocean currents. There is no course that can stop the current from flowing where they want none. So we have arrived, our strategic partners.
Right, folks,
indeed
please
we are
find
tightly united with them. I am saying that I am alright. I am just waiting for the signal, as I have said before. Jeza, wena. Jeza, zimaye. Jeza. Jeza. Zimaye. Jeza.
Right, can I again? So in once again, unmute, please. Right, Tendai, are you in?
Yeah. I'm now in.
Good. Okay, ngati tongomanyai nechirongwa. Yeah. So Tendai, tell me, talk to me, Tendai. You know, it was it's over I think it's over 3 years since we got together sometime. When was that, by the way? That was in 2000 and it
Yeah,
was per
yeah,
COVID, didn't it? Per
yeah,
COVID, per
yeah,
COVID, jepo jepo pepe. Per COVID, pa ilo na ma general pepe.
Pago Vidi, yeah, 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 yeah. That
Right.
was the time.
Mm,
Ababani time.
mm. Yeah. So it's practically 5 years. And how does it feel? And talk to me. What's your reception of this? Some people are saying, kunyepa pora, acha buda mangwana tishamona ariko kereke. Right, folks. Muri muted, me messe. Muri muted. You shouldn't be muted. Come
Hey,
forth once you're
Siba.
in. Ma kunzwika manje mama kamuta pesa apa saka hapana zvatakachinzwa.
All right.
Inga kune zuva kwamuri ko kwakanaka.
Punizuwa, but it's cold. It's very, very cold.
Mm. Wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. Tell me. Mm. Mm. How does it feel?
Uh,
How does it feel?
as somebody who spent some time
Because
speaking to.
you're the only person who stood for a lot of complainants for a very long time for Makore.
Yeah.
And your organization was like an interface for a lot of people who came through you speaking, and I think you documented some or all of them. Tell me, what does today mean? Because some people are saying it's a lie that the police have done something.
Well, Simba, all I can say is, as somebody who spent time doing investigations and speaking with the alleged victim survivors of this case, today I spent the whole day just thinking a lot about some of the conversations I've had with the alleged victim survivors in this case. There was a lot of feeling of helplessness. And so to hear that a perpetrator who is alleged in this case, still alleged, right, is behind bars, it's giving me a glimpse of hope. And I've always worked with a lot of or heard from a lot of mothers or community members from our country while our organization is here, who say, my daughter was raped, or my daughter was raped at school, but I think the perpetrator is somebody who holds a high position in community, so I'm not able to. I feel helpless. That's the feeling of helplessness. So today, if it is true that Walter Magaya is behind bars, I'm feeling a sense of hope for all those victims, those alleged victims in this case, until he is tried, right? We say alleged, but all those victims who've come forward and reported that they were sexually violated by Walter Magai. That's my feeling right now, Simba.
Mm. And you are aware, that the document that I was seeing there, the police document has got two categories of offenses. It's got rape and it's got fraud. Are you able to take us through into those two just so that people can get perspective into them?
Rape and fraud, don't they always go together?
No, sorry, rape. Yes, yes, rape and fraud. That's right, that's right. So two things. That's right, yeah. Mhm.
Rape and fraud, they always go together. And I would like to lift up that title of daddyism, daddyism, which is the concept that we see a lot in our community. We have seen it with people like Masocha, who's a pastor. So it's men who they attain a position of power in community, whether by they are being popular or they are holding a powerful position in church. That's how they groom their victims, where there's a hierarchy of power. Um, and usually, when I think about the fraudulent part of this, is I'm thinking a lot about how money comes into that with the power trip, Simba. I'm also thinking about some of the. I don't know if I'm able to talk about some of the cases here, but I'm thinking the one that jumps out that has been reported on was the allegations against Walter Magaya and his lies about the fact that he could cure HIV. The Aguma
Oh,
case
because it's convicted, because that one was processed, right?
was
Mm.
processed, right? So that's
Mhm.
the fraudulent piece of it. The fraudulent piece of using the microphone and the Bible and the shiny suits uh, to lure and groom um, and unassuming victims. And by the time that they realize that they've been abused, it's a little too late. So for me, that's the fraudulent part of it. I'm thinking of, as far as I know. Yeah,
Can you take me through the term daddy? What does it mean? I mean,
the term daddy. If you see all men who are rapists, all men who traffic women, all men that pimp women for prostitution, um, we have got P Diddy, but actually the Diddy piece of Puff Daddy's name is again Puff Daddy, right? P Diddy, who's been convicted here. The name Daddy is a word that is usually used by people who are rapists, rapists of women, violators of women, and usually again they establish themselves as a father figure, daddy. Why should you call a man who's not your father daddy? Let's look at TB Joshua. What did a lot of his victims call him? Daddy. What did Walter Masocha's victims call him? They actually make their victims call them the daddy title. Because when you do that, you establish a power dynamic where your victim is always going to look up to you as daddy, as the father figure. And so you cannot question that authority. Hence, it's a part of the grooming process. I'm not going to mention other daddies we have in our Zimbabwean community, but anyone who calls themselves daddy, young women especially, and also men, young men, should never look at that person as a mentor. In ending, I'll say, Simba, we here in the States, we work on a lot of cases of trafficking, the sex trafficking of young women in inner cities here in the States. Those pimps who traffic young women, they ask the trafficked girls, usually underage, to call them daddy. So that is my problem with that term daddy and people who use it and people who continue to call some of the people in our community who are influencers daddy. We can replace daddy with rapist or pimp, violator of helpless victims. Those are my sentiments for now, Simba.
mm. but then some of us would want to pray, would want to um when we see a person quoting the Bible, when a person is in a state where they are speaking through a microphone or on video, we would want to call them daddy. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? And why is it? Okay, I don't want to go too much into that really, because I think it's going to be, don't want to get too distracted. But then, yeah, you have, I think you agree, you've really struck something. You've struck the chin on something that is talked about a lot in our community.
Yeah, Simba, we are never going to do away with these molesters, these rapists, these men that pry on innocent, younger women, and these days even younger men. We're never going to do away with daddyism until we call it for what it is, and we actually stop calling people that. I'll ask.
Tell me, please. But how come some of these guys are so eloquent and they're so articulate? They are, and I mean, I'm talking about a lot of people that I call daddy. I mean, so excuse not I call daddy, but I'm saying a lot of people call daddy, right? they've tended to be very articulate. Am I wrong? Like they're really very expressive, attractive in society. Am I wrong to say that?
No, you're
And
not.
and
You're not
yeah,
wrong, Simba.
yeah.
You're not wrong, my brother. I'm sorry, where I am is becoming a little bit distracted, so I'm off camera for now. But I'll say something to you.
Yes.
It is a well orchestrated crime syndicate, in the words of one senior brother.
Mhm,
uh, the moment a particular type of man who is positioning himself to molest and to abuse, even
mhm,
financial abuse of their congregates,
mhm,
any of these men who carry the microphone, they find a way to get themselves called something that is authority, that gives them an authority over all. It is a grooming process. They are very articulate because they practice it. It is actually, they're also articulate because this is a well planned out, premeditated crime. They have to plan out. They just don't wake up one day with their shiny suits and their permed, half permed hair, however they're presenting now. And I see Tracy said daddy or papa, Anna papa. I, for one, have always stayed away from calling any man who's not my father daddy. I don't even call the father of my kids daddy. The only man I call my father is the Lord and my biological father. Okay. So
mhm,
when a whole congregation full of grown men and women,
mhm,
some older than these young men, because a lot of these articulate men holding microphones in the Bible and who are hiding behind the pulpit.
mhm.
And I'm addressing this case particularly because Magaya is in that space. But we see them in journalism. We see them in
Yeah,
schools.
let's leave Magaya for now, so that
We
we're
see
not
them.
describing him. We're not
Okay.
describing his character.
Okay.
We're not. Yeah, we shouldn't be
Yes.
characterizing him, but just talking
Right.
about in general. Yeah, because you've
The,
mentioned Daddy, and so it's
yes.
the context. So to take us through that, please. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because I have seen, and it is a fact that people who call themselves daddy and social media and the various aspects of society, they tend to carry a certain level of eloquence, expression, and presence. So take us into that.
Okay. So what I've witnessed that I think these days it's all about the reputation. And if you see someone who's looking clean, who's looking smart on media,
Mhm,
it gives that kind of attractiveness, especially to these young kids. They
mhm,
want to experience. Now they think they're experienced. That,
mhm,
and to my point of view, these kids, they're exposing themselves to such situations. Because you want, yes, you might take the side that of the child, but at the same time, let's look at what the child really wanted on both sides. We shouldn't be taking sides. And at this point, you don't know what the child was thinking, and then later on, the child will realize, no, I've been tricked to do something which is wrong. You see, that's when the child will be able to speak up and say, no, daddy, there was this situation which happened like this, so forth. And then that's when you realize, no, man, these kids they're exposing themselves due to social media pressure, Instagram, Facebook, because you see your friend with a certain gift or a certain kind of gadget or asset. Now you want that, and then that person is able to provide that for that child. And then sometimes they will tend to have no agreement, or there won't be a fulfillment of the agreement they had in the beginning, and then the child will be able to speak up and report that person.
mm. Right. Oh, thank you very much. I was wondering. I think you just jumped in, Lawrence Magona, right? Right. Mm. Okay, thank you. So, Lawrence, just hold on. Let's just maybe get Comfort to finalize. Comfort, I think you ended up withdrawing.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Comfort, you.
Simba, can you repeat that, please? I might have a network glitch here. Where I am.
Yeah, there is a bit of like shaky. I don't know, is it my device or what? It's kind of shaky. Your voice is shaking.
Yes, I think it might be the network. I'm out and about. But can you hear
I
me now?
see. Okay. Yes, thank you. Can hear you perfectly now. So what I was asking you is to take me through, just to end here. Why do you speak so much against the daddy title, the daddy figure, the daddy concept, and what really, in brief, without going too far, because I think you went quite mambo zika zika. And by the way, I'm asking you because you are the only Zimbabwean NGO or even Zimbabwean anywhere that I know who consistently stood to host, to interface for many complainants of Walter Magaya for a very long time, for over the decade. I mean, you were consistent and you never withdrew. And many times you even used your own money. So I'm asking you, why are you bothered about the term daddy?
Thank you, Simba. I am very bothered about the term daddy because my life's mission is to make sure that no other little girl, no other young woman or young man has to endure the impacts of the violation of their most sacred part of themselves, which we call sexual abuse, which we call rape, all forms of abuse, but especially rape, sexual abuse. The term daddy is very problematic. And I hope our Zimbabwean policymakers, if they're here listening, I would love to see language in their policies that actually speak against people who pause in public and request that people call them daddy.
Mhm.
Words are prayer. Words are powerful. I'll give you an example, Simba. Somebody once asked, "Why is it that as a client, a paying client, you seem to have a lesser of an authority relationship with your doctor?" You know, you go to a doctor's office and you say, "Doctor so and so," the respect, but you're actually paying this person, right? The same thing with the people that call themselves daddy. It is actually, for me, it is evidence of the fact that this person must be looked at as a suspect. The moment somebody calls themselves daddy, they must be looked at as a suspect. That should be one of the things that should be one of the things that should be looked at as a suspect of a person who's a groomer. And I want to urge Zimbabweans to go and check out what do pimps who traffic children call themselves? What do all the people that end up abusing their congregants, cult leaders, any of these people in this space where there has to be abuse of power for the sake of violating those that they are leading? And I put leading in quotes because it's not really leadership that violates. Any of those people, they usually call themselves daddy. Um, so that's why that term is very problematic for me, Simba. I'll say from my professional experience, whenever there's been stings of men who have raped, who have massively raped, like when I say that, I mean they don't have one victim. They've been teachers in schools or they have positioned themselves to be groomers of young people. They usually request to their victims that they call them by a name that is of authority, and usually it's daddy, it's papa. It is some kind of name that takes away um, the authority from the victim. So that is my problem with that term, Simba.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. So, lastly, before you go, and maybe we open the floor, why do you think that a lot of people have been arrested today? Because it turns out that the people, his staff, including those that we see on video assaulting some complainants, and also even his wife, as we now hear, were also arrested. Could this be a mere witch hunt, or yeah, the police have truly arrested them and they're going to charge them, or they're likely to charge them and they're truly processing something? what is the meaning of this without going into the merits or demerits of the case? And we don't want to be tempted to do that. But what does this mean? How should someone like you and the people that you have been interfacing for read the events of today? I think I've lost you, right?
I think yeah, I'm back, Simba. I think we're still too early on in this,
Mhm.
although we've been working for years on
Yes,
this case. But I think right now the arrest is just the first step. And I,
first
like
step.
you, I'm very curious to see what are the next steps. Who else is being arrested? I'm an observer. I'm observing, and I'm really hoping that our criminal justice system, our justice system in Zimbabwe, um, will do as they should, and justice should be served, despite the name of the person or or their socioeconomic background. Um, it's too early for me to make any comments, and I don't want to disrupt the process. But I think the arrest of someone like Walter Magaya at this point is a huge step in the right direction.
Wow. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. We're going to move to the floor now. And we have Vicky here. Vicky, maybe might want to say something. I know Vicky has got one or two things to connect with. I think she also wanted with this interface that we're going to be opening throughout the weekend is an interface for people who want to connect with police or with prosecutors. So you folks can do that, and you should know that this arrest has truly happened. Zvaiti, guys, is tangatiripo. Right, Signor Manir Mukamuri. Soko, Signoro Soko. Kana kuti Soko, Signor.
Simba, ini moyo senior, right?
Oh, muri moyo zia ndakanga kuti muri moyo yeah, saka signoro muri kumaona sei maevents ezvaitika izvi yeah, how do you read them, and do they sound like real arrests, or they are just catch and release, or arrest and release?
So anyway, revolutionary greetings to all fellow Zimbabweans here present. And it is a struggle. We're in a struggle. Various lines of struggles. That speaks to our socio-economic challenges. Every day, we wake up in the morning, there's a storyline. We are busy. But very little movement, more haste and less speed. There's a reason why I'm saying that, more haste and less speed. So, before I respond to your question, I want to pose a question to you and all of us here. It's based on my assumption that I think now we've begun a journey where we really speak politics, or the issues that speaks to me and all of us. We've been shit politicking on this basis. It's a hard fall. Unfortunately, I'm not spared there. It's a hard fall. We are sober. Now, the question I want to raise is, can this be aligned to our politics in courts? I have a reason for saying politics in courts, because it's prescribed on my preamble, on my end, that there's no politics in Zimbabwe. But in courts, could this development be aligned to politics? And if it is aligned to politics, who could be the influencer here? Because I'm saying it on the backdrop of my understanding in Zimbabwe. Because of a political muscle. You skip jail because, again, of a political muscle. It's how our country, beautiful country Zimbabwe, has been reduced. This particular one, I'll bring up to speed. Maybe you would know, the listener here. The faction in the Christian world, Magaya, And I'm not getting old, but in Australia, what was his rival? You still remember Simba?
Andichazivi kuti rival yake ndeipeni.
Yeah, the two famous pastors, Magaya, I'll remember his name, but the point is the that one was aligned to G40, that was aligned to Lacoste at the time. And the one who G40s were aligned to were trapped because the likes of Zambis and Casqueros were known to be going there for deliverance or whatever. How can we forget? There's Magaya and the other one. What's his name? Takangama Tese. So it is on that basis that I'm asking this question. And again, supposedly, if Magaya was being protected by Emerson Mnangagwa, this is politics, guys. We have the right to speak the way we are speaking. It's nothing treasonous. We are talking about our issues, things that happen that control our lives, that brings us to the table, and based on assumption. Could it be that he's been thrown under the bus? Or is it because of the training factions now? His age no longer cost. In fact, it is Mnangagwa in general. We can leave it as an assumption, but it is what we are saying. We don't know how deep that is. Because it's important so that we understand what will happen by or it's press and release, or it's for us to think that reaching now we opened our eyes as a judiciary, and who is the complainant in the first place? So that at least we are all good, all on board. It's our country, Zimbabwe. It's our issue. We need to talk about this. Zimbabwe, back to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Signora. You know, Signora, when you're speaking, you seem to don't you think you are now veering off? Kuda kupinda mune dzimwe nyaya. Haisi nguva yekuti timbofana kumbofara here vana vambofara kuti munhu azosungwa. Hamusina kuti maakujamba here apo. Ngatimbofarayika kuti hamuone here kuti vana kunonzi kuratidzirawo, because you know it's taken 11 years ever since the allegations against Walter Magaya started. I think you remember 2014 when we started reporting these things. Tavakure. Sorry, Wabakure ma complainants aya. Kuti tizosvika patave panapapa. So going into politics, hey, pakaipa. Ndikuona sekuti hamusi kuona here kuti maakupinda mu bridge. Maakujamba bridge.
No, I agree with you before Fara. But you know what I'm saying is Fara to jamba. Wait, it's not scattered. There's nothing it's a context that we are. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, saka wakamuliswa ndo mataurira amunitewo. Takubatai.
Sorry?
Ndati takubata iva kumakaranga wekuwana muliswa ndimi wekuwana muliswa munotaura mamashoko asingatauke panyarekani. Chero musingazobuda papikisha muzotorwa mapikisha pazvimbo nemadzimai emukomboni, Signoro, zvamurimi tinozokuona makutenderedza mapikisha.
But coming to your question, but remember 2017 to say no, yeah, yes, no, not sorry, but as in, but the underlining. I see you never want to say I see I know if the food it has for one of my politician. No. So yeah. But that Kanya Kufara, it has become.
Do you think you seem to suggest that the statement that Zviganandangazi Sungwe is referring to Amwano Sungwa Vatakonava? Is that what you mean? You know, when Chiwenga confronted his number one and demanded peace here. Let's move to Farai. Let's just get Farai's perspective. Hi Farai, how you doing? Great to see you. Great to see you once again. Yeah. How do you read? How do you read what's happening right now? Of suddenly, yeah, Magai is arrested after 11 years. Is this a victory for complainants? Do you also find it to be a normal incident? Yeah, or there's something sinister. And number three, or is it number four now? Do you think that, as has been suggested by other people, Magai will just walk out of out of the police station through another door anytime soon? So it's just arrest and release. There's no agenda to truly investigate. Tell me, what do you read?
No, I think, thanks, Simba, for the opportunity. But maybe firstly, let me try and just address some of the issues you addressed prior to this before I go into the litany of questions you raise, which are pertinent equally. firstly, I think there is always a suggestion to try and separate number one and number two in the institutional framework of ZANU-PF. I think it's a misreading in itself, because even if you go back to the conference, in as much as there is a resolution that appears to pit number one and number two against each other, if you read number one's speech at conference and equally read number two's speech at conference, you'd find that there is a relation there. They all denounce similar issues simultaneously, and more pertinent is that number one then says, after his speech to the institution of ZANU-PF, get ready for the 2028 election. And that to me speaks of a man who intends to commit to what he already suggested when he won the day before the election of last year, suggests to the constituencies that he intends to elect him, to say to them, I intend to reframe or retain a sensibility of constitutionalism. That's one. But he doesn't stop there. He says it not once, he says it numerous times, to the point of inviting those that are charged with editorial, or rather the editors of newsrooms in the country, and says, this is my position on this particular issue. And so to read it within the context of how he is framed, and then to equally say at conference, irrespective of the resolution number one, he says, ready yourself for the elections of 2028 is pertinent. So that's how I read it, that there is a symbiotic relationship here. The two are not fighting. What you may see is a party, the right framing for any editor in the room. The right framing is that for the first time our country has to contend with a transitional process. And that in itself, because it's the first time we're doing it, raises consternation, which is natural. I think any party, given its history, given the fact that we are used to having, or rather we have been used to having one leader, there are traditions that occur. Now, we differ about, so those differences may play out in the public and so forth, as we saw towards a non-elective conference, which is important, where the rumors surged about the positioning of number two. But the outcome is what speaks volumes. And the outcome, I think, from the basis of nuance, if you look at the fact that the vice president, or rather the president, looks towards his counterpart's wife, number two's wife, and says, seeking correction on Ndebele word, given the fact that he already had Mudenda there, and he already had his vice president from ZAPU, who is there present, and he looks to his wife. It's that symbolism matters, and because it speaks to a broader picture. But I just say that to say, maybe in a non-rounded way, I do not see a divide. I see a perception of a divide premised on the newness of the potential of transition. But to answer your question directly, I think the Magai issue is something that speaks to the wills of justice turning. They may be slow, but when they arrive, they arrive. I think that there is something to answer for. ZRP would not publish, as they've done so commonly, without having gathered sufficient evidence. And now it's up to the courts. Of course, we have to work on the basis of justice. And according to the rules of justice, someone is only deemed guilty when they've gone through the judicial process. The anticipation is that if ZRP is willing to go public, and historically ZRP tends to not go public direction that they've gone if they are not willing, if they have not gathered sufficient evidence in order. Because this is a high-profile individual who has got networks in the political frame. So you want to approach it with a sense of caution, but equally approaching it with a sense of evidential-based experiences that enable whoever is the investigative officer for the case to stick, right? And if it's gone so public, my thinking is that they've gathered sufficient insights on the case, and they think that they can actually push it towards an outcome that favors whatever they are alleging. So the hope is that the evidence is significant. It's not about political connection, because if it was about a political connection, it would, one, not be so public. Two, it would not even be an arrest, if he is so politically connected. If the ideation is that he's politically connected and is untouchable, we've seen in the past the advisor to the president himself, who sat and ate with the president, was arrested and charged and taken to jail for 3 years. He's currently sitting in a cell as we speak. So who is Magaya in light of that? So I think we should compliment our justice system. That is if the evidence gathered sticks. So here I urge that let us allow the system, the judicial system that we hope one day, whether we are guilty or not, equally serves us in a manner that's fair. So he also deserves to stay in court, and we can only deem him guilty once he has served that. But for now, we say kudos.
Right. Okay. So here we are. So Farah is saying that there is no fighting at all. There is nothing, and people are just reading different faces of the same leadership script. Signor, do you agree with that?
Simba, this is not a joke. In India, guys, I don't know how Akira. It's not politics. Takatoitwa large. Sikuru makati parai. Maumwe takapedza akatitaura nyika yedu. I want to just respond very direct and my personal opinion without fear of being victimized. What you said to me is exactly the opposite. And I want to be very clear on that, not for political reasons. And last one, my yellow bone, one seems soldier, Simba. Chirikutotonga, chirikutoando, chirikutokola mashots kumasuro. That's why there's firing. So I'm trying to also bring you up to speed so that you understand my perception, my argument. Because why are people fidgeting? Because Shwenga that we know is not the Shwenga that we are seeing today. And with things happening, what I'm hearing from you is like you're saying it's a ZANU collective effort, number 1 and 2. In Garamba. Because you know what, they could be, if you do such things which can maybe promote the opposition, I don't think it's wise for ZANU-PF to do that. Because why am I saying this? Because what Chiwenga is doing is exactly what the opposition, as some of us, we have been advocating for. That's why we are in these trenches. I cannot see, I find it difficult to think that if number 1 is shy to admit that for the longest time we've not been doing the right thing. And I think that question, Simba, without wasting time, you need to also ask but is it an afterthought? Because number 1, ZANU-PF business is my business. Because by default, again, he becomes the head of state and government. Assuming what Chiwenga is saying, very pamuchete, it's a backlash to your response.
Maybe, if I can quickly.
And another bit.
Muzukuru, nachita kuti mudzokere ku-constitution. Ndingakubvunzei, manifesto yeZANU-PF, what was its main thrust patakapinda ma-elections, if you recall?
You might think I'm brushing you off. You know what I've learned for the longest time. This is why Zimbabwe is where it is today. Manifesto. No, not right. This thing you do as I say, not as I do.
No problem. But what
the constitution says this.
No,
and what
alright, mataza kupindura rega ndipindure.
Andina holistically what you are alluding to. This is what the constitution says.
No, I'm not talking about the constitution. I'm talking about a manifesto and the constitution are two different. The constitution in Nika was written in 2013. A manifesto was planned towards an election. The election. So maybe let me make my case without asking questions, because I think we may conflate issues. Let's go back to what my narrative is. My narrative is this. To summarize it, what Chiwenga is saying, what number 2 is saying, is in accordance to what the promise of the party was when we actually went to our previous election. The thrust of the manifesto was that anti-corruption. That was the main thrust. Anti-corruption. What we are seeing is that there is a number 1 and number 2. Number 2's position is to complement number 1. Number 1 is to suggest that within that manifesto, there was to be infrastructure building, there was capacity building, and so forth. And capacitating the economy to reach the Agenda 2030, the Vision 2030, which is to get the economy to an upper middle income base. Part of that strategy is, 1, you need to increase productivity within that economy. You equally need to increase employment levels within that economy. You must increase accommodation within that economy, the areas of need of that entirety of the economy. But in order to do so, the main thrust is to rid ourselves, or at least mitigate corruption. Vice President, because he controls the economic cluster as within his tier, he says, no, I will continue to fight the issue of the number 1 agenda of the manifesto. It is not contradictory. In fact, it is complementary. That's why if you go back to the conference that is just passed, and you read the speech of Ramnangagwa and his deputy, there is a symbiotic relationship there. They are speaking one issue, one hymn sheet. Speaking from one hymn sheet. And if you think I'm lying, simply just Google speech ya Ramnangagwa and Google speech ya Chiwenga. They are complementary speeches, irrespective of the fact that kunevanu vari kuhukura. Now, why is it's important for us to understand this? It is so that we are not deterred by those that differ with the sentiment of an anti-corruption perception or perspective. Why is it important? In any institution, given that ZANU-PF is a broad church, a large party, you're going to have 1 or 2 people that think differently within the household of the institution. And that is not to suggest that because they think differently, their differences of thought are correct. Because you have to actually justify why you think that way. And then if you are to personalize an institutional mandate framed by the manifesto, then
so I can't wait to respond. Well, let me be very clear.
Sorry,
I'll leave you to be connected. You talked about.
If I may,
you talked about.
Signor, if I may land, and then you can respond. So my point being, in as much as those people that differ with the position of an anti-corruption position, and they may have voices that are loud, it does not suggest that because they've chosen to personalize their messaging, they are correct. They are not. This is an institutional mandate backed by a manifesto of the very institution that is governing at present. Now, the president and his counterpart and his deputy have been consistent
with this one message. It is those that have chosen to take sides and try to remember vanhu vanodivida vanhu, or rather vanhu vanorwisa nyaya idzi are people who want to gain favor, assumed favor, by virtue of their positioning, in order to align themselves to one faction or the other. However, and I don't dismiss the fact that there are going to be factions in any institution, but the question is, do the leaders themselves think that way? I argue not, because these people are.
I think it's enough if you don't mind. So I'm responding briefly. You spoke about the manifest, the underlining. You are correcting me to say you're not referring to constitution, but what I'm saying, which is important for Zimbabwe, whatever is written down to me as Nani Basa, it's really chill, not to me, to you Zimbabweans. Scrutinize what I'm saying, you will understand. So there's so much talk about written things. We are a constitutional party, we are a revolutionary party, we are this and that. Does not mean anything. So what I see, Chiwenga is fighting a revolution. Protesting maybe has been used for the longest time. And unfortunately, why are we not able to glue these things and understand? It's not conspiracy that Mugabe did not know who to leave power. He's even suggested Chiwenga, he said, no, he's not a politician.
Gents,
By whatever default arrangement, he ends up in the system.
yes.
And I want to be very clear, what Chiwenga is saying, he cannot do it like Senior and all of us here, ordinary people, because that can be treasonous.
Okay, so Signor.
So what you are making me believe is to say, Chiwenga cannot say or do what he's doing without the mandate.
Signor. If you could.
Let me close my mic. Is it an afterthought, Simba? Grab that question. That person borrow it from me.
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying, okay, assuming I'm agreeing with you, Zimbabweans are agreeing with you, but you don't have those benefits that they have to correct things now.
Senor, you don't need Simba for this. I've answered the question.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying that is a very important question.
So let me answer this way. Google the ZANU-PF manifesto prior to the elections. It answers your question.
Okay, so hold on, folks. So you're saying, both of you, the disagreement here, I see Comfort has come back, is on these two, number one and number two. Farah, you're saying that number one and number two are not in any form of contention or contest for anything. These people are in fact in concert, and then Signoro is saying, no way, there's something really dodgy that's going on. Comfort, what's your take on that? Comfort, I hope you're back.
Don't leave out the afterthought. Is it then afterthought, assuming he's right? I've already had the longest time.
Yeah, comfort. If you come back, right? Comfort, we can't hear a thing. Maybe is it your microphone or something? It just is really interesting. I mean, we I know we're talking about Magaya, but we've just veered off into perhaps a totally different topic here that relates to number one and number two and what's happening in the country. Signoro is saying, look, there's something really, really sinister between these two fellas. Comfort, what do you hear? What do you see?
Hi gentlemen. I am Kumafarai, my brother Signoro, and everybody listening.
Yeah.
Very interesting take. Without blowing my cover, I'll just speak like a lay, as any lay person who would be observing. I think any Zimbabweans who are observing what's happening you can just tell there's tension. So maina baba vachirwa mumba, but they have to put a brave face for the kids, so the kids don't know what's going on. But the children know their parents so well. They watch their mothers rolling her eyes when she thinks the kids are not watching. The kids can see mom is not smiling as much, but also because of culture, amuvumisi kupinda mimba yemukati yemaparents. But I think if we pay attention, it's vana vakangwarisa, tokuona there's definitely tension. And I'll say it without blowing my cover because I know a lot more behind closed doors what's going on. But I don't agree with you. I think we can all see that there's something that is tense about number one and number two. And time is soon going to reveal that what that tension is. But Sevana, that these are two parents, number one and number two. I think there's something going on that is not quite settling. Even in my analogy of Maina Baba, kana mai vakatsamwira baba havakwanisi kutuka baba pane vana nekuti zvinofumura soro wemusha. Asi pane pamwe mai pavanotozombosvika kuti vachitaura nevanin'ina vavo kana maini kana vachitaura natete vasingazivi kuti vana vari kunzwa, vopa zvichemo zvavo kuna tete zvemba yemukati, vana vonzwa by mistake. Again vana havagoni kuenda kuna kumadzibaba kuna mai nababa unoti ndazonzwa, nekuti dzimwe nhau dzachona dzinenge dzisinei nevana. Mwana akafumuka kana baba vangu vaiti mwana akasvinuka. So what I'm saying, and I'll translate in case there are non-English, non-Shona speakers, all I'm saying is as children you will observe your parents' tension and you will know something is off. You will know that mommy is not happy.
If I may just quickly interject. You know, I like it when people put innuendos like blown cover, blah blah blah. You know, I've been in these institutions for a very long time. I need not share my repertoire. I think it speaks for itself for those that care. My point is not about, you know, because I think people conflate an institution, one layer. Second layer, the leadership of that institution and the people that follow those that are involved in that institution. And then those that are involved in that institution may have different ideations given the fact that it's a broad church. Now, because it's a broad church, it's very difficult to argue against the fact that there are people with different thoughts about the direction of the institution. Now, no one is arguing that other people have ideations around where the direction of that institution is going to go. But the institution is governed by principles. And those principles are the top two layers, the understanding of the top leadership and the understanding and the unwritten principle of that fundamental institution. Now, the reason why I layer it in these three layers is for us to have a gravitas towards what then leads the day, or what wins the day. The crisis, if one is to call it that, is that Zimbabwe as a country, and equally ZANU-PF as an institution, is going to have to confront its initial and first transition for the first time. Now, this is unknown territory. Given the fact that it's unknown territory, it then creates these different imaginations as a consequence of this third layer I've alluded to, about people with proximity that have ideations and that want that continued proximity to be sustained. Now, we must not conflate that as a premise of national continuity, right? Because what creates, or rather what gets us to where we are today, is that from the moment of 2013, when we had defined as a country the kind of DNA we want to have by drafting a constitution, we decided that these are the terms. And those terms were equally led by some of the top tier leadership we now have. Post 2017, we then had a conversation, yet again. In that conversation, that top tier leadership said we intend to sustain that 2013 agreement. Now, some in the third layer, who are a majority, in terms of opinion, who equally govern that opinion by virtue of their numbers, are saying, no, we are thinking otherwise. But there are frameworks that have to be that rather you have to argue those frameworks institutionally. So that second layer and first layer agrees with it. Currently, it stands as this. The top layer is saying congruently, we are not interested. The third layer is saying that we are interested in you continuing. Now, it's a debate to have, an institutional one at that. We had that resolution last year in the institutional framework as third layers. And then we emphasized it this year by saying, let's implement it. Right? Now, that is not to say, of course, I agree with my sister that there are tensions, because tensions happen if this is your first initial experience. I agree with that. I concede to that point. My virtue is this, or rather my point, my fundamental point is this. In as much as those arguments are present and are prevalent, it doesn't change the second layer and top layer's argument, which is we will adhere with the Constitution. Now, what we are having is conversations around the party position. The party's position is such that we are saying resolution number 1 is to be respected and so forth. And on top of that, those arguments are valid. It should happen in a democracy, that people are allowed to make their case. But for those of us, like I for one differ, but I'm a minority in the context of this particular argument. I equally understand that, okay, let it go to Parliament. If it passes through Parliament, let us go to referendum. And some of us will support whatever the party supports. But the outcome is always going to determine where we go. And I vehemently differ with the notion that this will even get to referendum.
And I will have no time for Parliament.
Sorry, if I may complete my point.
No, I can't allow you, because this is part of fighting. Because this is a recorded space. I've counted the number of words that I've spoken, the time that you've asked to be given time to speak. The number of times you've been asked to learn, you have given everything that you want.
No, but I've not interrupted you. Can you not?
I'm just saying, because this is the problem.
Why is it we always have to fight?
This is the problem when you do not, when you are humble.
I just want to learn.
Like what I did, giving someone time to learn, and being soft like wool, they abuse you.
No, but can
and it's on record in this space.
Fine.
No, I know. What I'm saying to you.
No, allow me to complete my thought.
Maybe, Signora.
I'll just leave and then you can.
Signora, just hold on. Just hold on. Let's give him 30 seconds to land.
But I've protested to say
Thanks.
I've given you more than 4 times.
Let's give him 30 minutes. 30 seconds to land. 30 seconds, please. Yeah. Just land in 30 seconds, please.
So in a nutshell, what I'm simply saying is that it's not a simplistic argument as you're making it. What we have to consider is that there is a party position, yes, but that party position has to go through fundamental processes. Those processes have not yet been complete. Now, to argue that there is tension, yes, no one argues that there is tension, but tension is not an outcome. That outcome is going to be determined by due process. That due process is the determinant factor, right? But the fundamental point I was making is that at the end of the day, there's a principle to protect that the president himself agrees with. And I will echo this one fundamental sentiment in conclusion. The president himself at conference said, prepare for the 2028 election. Now, that does not sound like a man who wants to extend to 2030 if he himself is arguing for the party to prepare for a 2028 election. And it's in his speech. You can Google it and read it for yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, you know.
so what I was protesting, Simba,
Mhm.
I'm sure it's on record.
Sure.
Each time someone speaks, they want to be given a chance to finish. I've counted the number of words and the frequency. We're not going to allow that. So, but we want to go back, at the speed of the lightning to the issue that has brought us to this table. And Simba, please, if you agree with me and everybody, topic, to put our one separately. I personally, I'm not tired, but we've had enough of this bickering.
So you're interrupting me to say nothing.
Yes, yes, I'm protesting because these other people, we need to give them the language they understand. So you see, the tone is very unapologetic. I'm not going to continue listening to you and listening to you in public. People are listening that I am very humble and accommodative, but you want to dominate. But I'm saying, you are not listening to understand.
No, but I cannot help
You are not listening to understand. I'm saying, fair enough. Let's go back to the issue. I tried left, right, and said, no, wait a minute. Don't allow me, don't assist me to speak. I did not assist you to speak.
No, but
I'm simply saying, no, hold on. We want to fix Zimbabwe. Let's get Zimbabwe working, guys. I'm not fighting with Sekuru here, but the spirit of determination. I've agreed again to be in a shoe, and I've asked a pertinent question. Is it an afterthought that ZANU-PF today they're using that? Hold on. People, Zimbabweans want to hear me the same way they hate you. That even if you don't answer that question here on this space, you don't need to be awakened. You don't need. There's no rocket science. The question remains to say, okay, after suffering for the longest time, some of us will know for your own information, Farai. The reason why all these projects, Zamubona Manise and all this nonsense, have not taken off the Mugabe's tab. Because of one thing that Shiva was talking about, value addition. Mugabe would tell you, get out of my office. Not like literally like get out of my office, but the delayed approach to these projects. If you think that Manise was discovered 2018, go and research. We know some of these things. So,
there you are.
He's never been close to ED the way people think he was used. So that being said, there is that awakening in Chiwenga to do the right thing for Zimbabwe. To me, it's not a joke. I was only say, it's not a threat. Not me, but the people who are taking statistics, writing down, collecting information. People we're tired of people jumping castles, but Sekuru, I hope you won't be found wanting again, contradicting yourself. No, there's the politics. There's no going back in corruption. And corruption is shown as so there's no going back in there. I think it's like this topic. Not the fact that I want to look at this is 2025.
Okay. Just so quickly. So if I can mute you quickly here. And this whole fight that of talk and of verbs, of words, and so many statements tonight. Just that the opposite of what we've been projecting is really happening. It seems to just there's an earthquake. Am I wrong? There's something. Yes, yes.
a right or wrong. I'm simply saying that the fact that the party is emphasizing it should not be a demonic position, but rather a complementary position. Now,
Right.
of course, it shouldn't be
So
complementary.
please land, yeah.
Something they should be doing for many years. But I'm simply arguing that it's I'm simply answering your question. It can't be an afterthought if it was a manifesto.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Folks, let's end with Comfort because yeah, Comfort. Please shoot. Give us your 1.5 minutes, and we're going to be concluding our session tonight here.
Thank you, Simba. Yeah, I wanted to circle back and bring us back to where we're here. That is Walter Magaya issue. And Simba, earlier on, you asked me a question about fraud, which I think ties in very well with the topic of corruption that's been brought up here. Would you be at liberty to talk a little bit? And I don't want to open a whole can of worms because then we're rounding off to finish, right? But would you be at liberty, as the documentary maker of the Gold Mafia, all 5 episodes with Al Jazeera, would you be at liberty to talk a little bit about some of the connections that Walter Magaya has also has had, like Vanalingwana Angel, or does he? Because you asked me that question about fraud, but I wanted to focus more on the daddyism and the rapist. Can you just give us like just 5 minutes? I'm curious.
I don't know. 5 minutes is going to be quite a bit of time, but I'll quickly round it up. Thank you for raising that one up. Right. I I want to say that from my understanding, uh, the daddy characters do not necessarily have to be a particular profession or a particular fixation. As long as they're a daddy character, they just wherever, and this is an interesting thing, and just also to update our viewers and listeners, this is one aspect that a lot of people have. It's been so difficult for people to swallow it that anyone who is in these spheres of influence and they have utilized that status for projection into society or in their messaging has always been a manipulator. They've always been a molester. And I also state here publicly as a warning that people should be very careful and use your warning. I mean immediately whenever you see someone who comes to you and introduces themselves as a daddy character, and that is part of their profession or engagement with you, and you have to call them daddy. That's a very dangerous place. And when I introduced some years ago, that was in 2019, to the Al Jazeera team, when they were engaged me for the first time in February. So it was 12 March 2019, um, when we had Kamlesh Patni, the pastor. And then I mentioned immediately Hubert Anjo. And then not long after that, or a few years later, I would mention a character who is in the journalism field by the name Hopewell Chimono. It, yeah, it was a really difficult pill to swallow. But for those who knew in Al Jazeera before, including the channel's first anchor, I think people know who that is. The man who was the first news anchor in Zimbabwe, and then a few other staff members, one of them who had also warned the channel against engaged in Hopewell Chingono at the time when he was given an award an anti-corruption. Some incidents that I only got to know a few weeks, months later. Yeah. So yeah, the alertness to danger was so clear, and yet there was also a precipitation to ignore. So people to just say, well, we are getting something else. It's the same way that you could say about TB Joshua, he gives us Bible verses, he preaches, he blesses us, he gives us a ministration. So we would rather have him, we can give him the benefit of the doubt. And do you know, at this time, this was in 2022, it was a year after George Charamba had revealed some really deep things about Opochinono that people didn't know about, deep things at the level of human rights abuses. I mean, really, and as I'm saying it right now, a lot of people are going to forget about it. But, you folks are ignoring the fact that this guy is actually a way bigger, a way horrific human rights abuser than Emerson Mnangagwa. It doesn't matter if he's a doctor. I mean, we had a doctor, a medical doctor called Sandra Ndirika 2 months ago in the UK who got convicted of for cloning a patient's credit card or debit card and making payments with it while the patient was in surgery. And so it doesn't matter what profession you are. You doesn't guarantee that you're not an abuser. And so the most important thing is, what really are you doing? So you could be practicing medicine, but what really is your profession? No, you're not. You're not a doctor. You're not practicing. You might be a doctor, but are you practicing medicine? No, you're practicing theft. You're practicing card cloning. You're totally you're in a totally different profession. You're just abusing this particular aspect, this particular profession as a front. And so, for me, this has been one of my biggest, really difficult times was in relaying some you call it bad news when you come and you say, Signoro, that your girlfriend that you're with or that friend of yours is not who he says or who she says he is. So it's yeah. So the characteristic of a daddy character or a daddy person or a daddy figure is something that people should not ignore. People should take that seriously and protect themselves, protect their family. And I don't want to go into the news of today and relate to this. I'm just talking in general about daddy characters. I think I've been asked to talk about that by Comfort. That, look, you don't have to be, a person doesn't have to be a particular figure for them to be trusted, as long as they are a daddy figure, as long as there's someone who wants you to call them daddy. Yeah, munhu yese ari kuda kuti umuti daddy, say why. There's always been some sort of wizardry, huroi in Shona, vuloi overloi in the vele, and it's manipulation, and and these are the type of people who can feed society with false realities. If they come on this space, they can make people jump on a spacecraft and go to planet Mars and back. That's their capacity, these people. Vano are not believers. So anyway, folks in the Taurisa, come forth. You've made me go on a tangent, I didn't want to do this.
No, thank you. Rules of engagement, it takes up to 7 times. It takes up to 7 times. And I've been testing this in my work. Someone said it takes up to 7 asks before you engage someone's attention. So I think no matter how many tangents you go through, we must keep going on 7 more tangents around parents who are here. Farai Abba, I know Farai has a daughter. We have to change the the culture of daddyism. We have to change the culture of hero worshipping. That's what has led us to 4 decades plus of oppression as a nation. And we have to learn to name things for what they are. So I saw, and I want to comment in the comments, someone said, you're going to ruin this man's life. How do you know that this is the truth? How we know is we've interviewed and spoken to many survivors. Even one young woman died in this also as a survivor, victim survivor. So that question always baffles me. The question of asking victim survivors to prove that they are really victim survivors. So anyway, Simba, thank you for this space.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Well, by the way, it's alleged.
You see, I raised what is just spoken about. I'm kind of not hesitant. I want to be categorically correct. The delayed approach, there is kind of intimidation which took place when news broke that Magaya is lying about this cure for HIV. And the reason why I brought up Magaya and Makandiwa, I think you are going to research Simba. The reason why I'm bringing up is because these people have been for the longest time used by our politicians because they want numbers. And so I'm inquisitive to find out to say the protection. Magaya has been protected for the longest time. And I think the question that I asked ZRP through this platform, we need to ask that question to say there are cases that don't go samples in the courts